Hi, I'm Nathan with the Grace Company, and today I'm going to show you how to sharpen your blades in detail with the TrueCut Rotary Blade Sharpener. We do often hear and have questions regarding this process, and so we want to clarify that. Again, we are often asked, well, does it work with any cutter? And the answer to that is yes. Whether you have a 28mm cutter, 45mm cutters, again, there are a lot of variations of 45s and 28s, again, 60mm cutters. All these different type of cutters can and will be able to be sharpened with the TrueCut linear rotary blade sharpener here. One of the first things that we want to look at, and obviously would be, when our blade starts getting dull, we start ending up with small skipped areas or flat spots. Yes, we can sharpen flat spots out of those blades. We can sharpen small nicks as well. And what I would like to tell you is this process, and the reason it works so well, is we are again using a process that has been used for centuries, which is taking the honing stone, which is this stone here on the inside, and by placing the guard tight against that stone, every time we push the blade down, it actually rotates that blade against the surface of the stone. So that's why we're able to get such a sharp edge back on your blades. How we're going to do this is we have an insert and a slot on both edges of the sharpener. You expose your blade the same way if you were cutting, and we're cutting fabric here. You can see this is dull. We're going to go ahead and sharpen this one back up. But as we're cutting, we just simply use that same process so that the blade is open or available to cut. On a lot of your larger cutters, you can see that what we would do is we would just drop that blade down and make it visible, okay, and ready for cutting. Again, by just making that blade available to see, we're going to now be able to drop that down into the sharpener next to the stone. So again, I'm going to take this, we're ready to cut, but I'm going to sharpen it. We'll drop this down in next to the stone. We're going to go ahead and use the exact same motion we use to cut, but to sharpen. It is critical, however, if we look at this, that my cutter is not tilted or tipped into the stone or away from the stone, but it is, in essence, perpendicular to that surface. But we use the same process, and so what we'll do, and it does not take a lot of down force, all we're doing is just kind of keeping that cutter in by the stone. We're going to use the same process to cut now, but we're going to push this back and forth, and what that will do is we'll sharpen the right side of my blade currently, your left side. We're going to go ahead and then rotate it around to the back side. Now we can sharpen the opposite side of the blade, dropping that back down in next to the stone, using the same process to sharpen the other side. Now this process is pretty specific. What we want to do is, depending on how dull that blade is, we're going to start with anywhere between 15 to 20 strokes per side, and then we cut that in half down to 10, we cut that in half down to 5. We're going to try it and see how sharp it is. If we're not quite sharp enough, we would repeat this process. Again, the process is we're going to start with a selected amount of strokes, even on both sides. We cut that in half. We then cut that in half one more time, do our check to see how sharp we are, and this process can be repeated as often or as little as needed based on how sharp you'd like your blade and how dull it is when you start or when you're cutting. So I'm going to go ahead and do this process again. We're going to drop it in. We're going to start with, I'll start with 10 myself on this one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to go ahead and rotate the sharpener around. Again, you notice that my hands are not on the sharpener. It is critical. Obviously, we don't want to slip out or chance cutting ourselves. We're going to do the same. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to repeat this process now, doing 5 on each side. And then we'll go down to 2 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to rotate this back around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really, I can go ahead and see at this time really how we're getting it. Looks like I do need to sharpen a little bit more. I'm still getting a couple flat spots in here that we want to remove from our fabric. So I'm going to repeat this process. I'll do 10, 5, and then 2 strokes, and then we'll just try this again. So we're going to go ahead and start. Now what's nice is the first time you sharpen a blade, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is it might take you a few more strokes the first time until you match the steel on the blade with the angle on the stone. This has been put together to match the most common blades in the market from a lot of the name brands out there. So again, it shouldn't take an incredible amount of times, but it'll be up to you to determine that, again, based on our cut quality. your cycles you're going to want to go through. We'll go ahead and do 10 again on this side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to go 5, and then when I'm done with 5, I'll go down to 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to flip it back around. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll finish up with 2 on each side. 1, 2. I like a really sharp blade, is every time we sharpen, we push that still the other direction, then we push it back. So by doing fewer and fewer strokes, we find we end up standing that still up a lot straighter. So now we can go ahead and we can see, again, that by doing so, we're able to take that back to a really sharp edge. Again, if you're looking at cutting multiple layers of fabric, depending on how dull you get, you might end up doing a couple more rotations through the process. But again, that's the process. Again, a quick repeat. First out of the gate, the first time we sharpen, we're going to start somewhere between 15 and 20 strokes on each side by inserting it down in the edge. Same stroke that you're using to cut. We're going to duplicate that exact amount of strokes on the opposite side to sharpen both sides of the blade. If I start with 15, the second process would be to cut that down to 7, and then lastly I would cut that in half again and then try to see how sharp that blade is. And that's the simplicity behind using the sharpener, not taking the blade out, a no hands-on process. We go directly from cutting to sharpening, and we can go back to cutting. Thank you very much. If there are any other questions, feel free to contact your dealer or also contact the Grace Company at 1-800-264-0644.